the name of the values that keep you alive. Do not let your vision of man be distorted by the ugly, the cowardly, the mindless, and those who have never achieved his title. Do not lose your knowledge that man's proper estate is an upright posture, an intransigent mind, and a step that travels on limited roads. Do not let your fire go out. Spark might replace the spark, and the hopeless swamps of the approximate, the not quite, the not yet, the not at all. The world you desired can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It's yours.
We're going to be talking a little bit today about cybersecurity with the guys from the Path.network. So thanks for being here, guys.
Hey, it's good to be here. This is Marshal, Webb, Path Technology CTO, and we also have Hilbert.
Hi, it's Hilbert, CEO of Path.network.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, guys. So I think we're just going to jump right in here. And I wanted to ask how your previous experiences sort of prepared you to start this company, and also how it led you to realize the necessity of the company that you're building.
Yes, that's a great question. So I started out as I co-founded an MSSP, Managed Security Solutions Provider. We were registered as a ISP, and we protected internet traffic. And my experience owning an ISP and looking at some of the caveats associated with that led me to design Path as a in-house solution that we decided to kind of reach out externally and take to market.
So what are the major misconceptions you think there are pertaining to cybersecurity? What are people not paying attention to that you've noticed, and things that you're trying to fix?
The biggest thing is that it's solved, right? So there seems to be a misconception that the industry has matured, or things are more secure today than they used to be, or that we've made tangible progress going forward. I think that progress has been made in the field, but people are so interconnected now, more so than they were even 10 years ago, that I think that if anything, the attack surface has expanded, and people are at more risk today. So what we do at Path is a little bit less security and a little bit more engineering. What we do is we map out how data travels over the internet. And by doing so, we get a previously untapped and a previously, impossible vista into how the internet actually works.
You got to recognize something. The biggest issue here is that people think this is a solvable crime. Cybersecurity is not something that is just cyber crime or criminal attacks via the internet is not solvable. It's the mugging of today. No matter where you are in the world, muggings still take place, and the internet it's the same thing. And anybody who believes that this is something that's going away is they're delusional. The simple fact is we will address the issues as we can. We will make it harder for the bad guys to do stuff, but that means you have to be harder as well. You've got to not walk down the dark lines. It means you've got to be willing to look at the information that's being presented to you. It means that you've got to be cognizant of the risks as they appear.
And so what do you think a lot of companies aren't cognizant of? What are they doing that can be improved upon by certain software? What are you targeting more specifically to fix within some of these vulnerabilities?
Well, visibility is the key. I mean, think about it. You go to a shopping mall and you can have cameras everywhere, and you can see people walking in and out the doors with bags, but you have no idea what's inside those bags. You don't know what they're carrying, whether they stole something and took it out with them, whether they're bringing something bad in. Companies simply rely on technology too much to collect information, but never actually look at it. They never put people looking at it. And one of the things that Path is offering up is the ability to see what's happening all the way down to the consumer level. Basically, you can see everything that's going on, all the traffic that's coming, where it's coming from. Do they come in the back door? Do they come in the front door? Do they route themselves around 16 times before they came in? Are they carrying packages that are 10 times too big for them? All these little things that come into play with it. And those things tie in as we deal in this crypto space with lots of different pieces of data that can be stolen and monetized. You got to understand where that data is. You got to understand why we need to look at this now, and people just aren't doing it.
So when you talk about monitoring, I guess, you know, they have those LifeLock commercials where they talk about having a security monitor versus, you know, a security guard. So when you do catch someone doing something, what do you do from there?
When you do, well, I didn't go into my background. I'm an ex-FBI agent.
Oh, really?
And if we do find a bad guy, we know how to get them reported to the proper people. When Marshall was working with his other firm, with Back Connect, he was working with the U.S. government on multiple different occasions. That's how he and I connected. The simple fact is that you can't catch them all, but notifying people of how they do something allows people to put fences up. I'll give you a perfect example. Somewhere in history, we learned that if we locked our doors at night, people don't walk inside and steal our stuff. Right? We haven't got to that point in the cyber realm. We haven't figured out, oh, we need to lock our doors. And more importantly, we haven't figured out how to lock our doors because we don't even know where we're looking. And that's what we're trying to give you insight into.
Yeah, no, that certainly makes sense. I mean, most people really have no idea where these vulnerabilities are, or even, you know, oftentimes that they exist. And, you know, I guess one question I would also ask is, I guess, with your experience in the FBI and some of the things you've seen since, you know, what's the proportion of, you know, state actors versus, you know, sort of loose cannon? So what's sort of the lay of the land as far as cyber attacks and threat detection that you're looking out for?
Well, if you consider that cyber's been around for, cyber attacks of this nature have grown up. They're still in their infancy. We're talking about 18 years of serious cyber type crime. And we have transitioned a great deal from hackers sitting in mom and dad's basement to organized criminal organizations that allow this to happen at this point in time. So to say, are they state actors or are they organized crimes or whatever, the simple fact is that there are still small bit players who are trying to steal a buck or two here or there, manipulate a system here or there. But from a overarching criminal enterprise, it's just gotten bigger. I'll give you a perfect example on this one as well. Think of the Equifax hack last year. If one or two guys had done that, there's no way they could use 143 million IDs. You steal 10 million credit cards. There's no way you can use it before those cards are no longer valuable. Yeah. So the point is that it had to turn into an organized group. And those organized groups are even breaking the businesses down into different things. And it's the key pieces of information they want. Trick here is to identify this, to see what's happening, to get the education out there to people so that you can build your defenses, so you can watch them coming in, so you know who's coming up to your door. Think of it like I don't know, it's like a CCTV on the front of your house, so you know who's walking up to the door and knocking on the door before you decide to actually open that door. This is the kind of visualization we're trying to give networks as a whole. And as a regular everyday human, probably not the big thing. You're not going to try to secure yourself up that way. From a corporate level, you are, but we're actually we're crowdsourcing this information by letting people actually share what they're coming across on their own phones, mobile devices, tablets, PCs, IoT devices, and so on. Share it with us. We meld it all together and we share it with the various different clients so they know how to protect themselves.
I see. So you're increasing visibility by creating a massive interconnected network to draw, I guess, data from and to figure out where the holes are, I guess? Yeah,
let's put it this way. For so long, the cybersecurity realm has been secretive about the idea of sharing information because, if we tell people how they're doing it, then other people will do it. That was a really, really big piece for the longest time. The problem with that is it's the old, you give him a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach him to fish, he'll eat for his life. That we're at that point. You have to educate people and companies as to how the bad guys are doing things, giving them that visibility, legally giving them that visibility, having people willingly share that visibility, so that they can defend against that. And that's what we do. We actually pay the everyday user to provide this information with us. And it shows network performance across the board. It opens up all the blind spots so they aren't there anymore. Again, if a company or client decides not to do anything with the information, that's on them. But if you have the information in front of you and you know not to go through door X, Y, or Z, don't go through door X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. No, that certainly makes sense. So I was wondering how you guys came up with some of your coin economics, things like market cap and supply. And I was reading a little bit about things like mining and incentives for that. So how could you describe, I guess, the economic system around the platform that you're building?
Yeah, so you bring up a great point. That's a great question. So the tokenomics, as we refer to it, it was a large portion of what we went into when we designed this platform. The tokenomics had to be scalable enough to support the number of miners that we required to get our network visibility, and at the same time, it also needed to be stable. We needed to make sure that the network was stable and that we wouldn't incur any slowdowns or penalties. So when designing the tokenomics, we also wanted to do one other thing, and that was incentivize adoption. So we've baked into this a reward algorithm that basically calculates if we have a deficiency of insight into any given region. So if we need more users in the South Pacific, or if we need more users in Northwest Asia, we can get it quite easily by incentivizing people and giving bonuses to run our software in those locations.
And so is most of the software going to be, I guess, facilitated by the miners themselves? Are you going to have like CPU mining? So how do the pieces all fit together for?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Basically, we take an Airbnb approach in essence. Instead of opening up hotel chains around the world, we're using existing devices, existing houses, existing computers and electronics to facilitate our monitoring, to build our network. By renting these devices, by paying people to use their devices to run our software, we get that visibility at scale without the infrastructure costs and without the turnup. It's the benefit. We've married the best concepts of a centralized platform with a distributed network.
Okay.
And let me share something else in terms of the token economics on this. The problem with offering up a worldwide solution like we're doing means that you can't pay everybody. It's nearly impossible to pay everybody around the world in whatever currency they exist in, just because of the way the systems currently work. There's a fee for every transaction. There's a fee for everything of that nature. So what we've done is create this Path token, and by utilizing the Path token to pay everybody, then they rely on the secondary markets or the tertiary markets to convert that into whatever fiat they want to convert it into wherever they're located. So it eliminates the necessity for a localized group, and all the other groups that claim that they are offering this kind of worldwide view have never addressed the economic piece of that, and that is, how do you pay everybody around the world on that final mile, past the data center all the way to the user? How do you pay everybody in such a way that it is worth it for them to actually utilize the software or allow the software to be installed on their systems? So that's why the token comes into play. It grants us the ability, and therefore them, to convert it into any language, any local currency that they'd like to.
Exactly, and EJ hits on a great point there. We're really after that last mile, right? We're trying to corner the market on that last mile. As the internet scales up, as services have to support more and more users, we have platforms that have millions of users today. Any service that you can think of, from Google to Facebook to Spotify, they support millions of users across the world. And again, to support those networks are very complex, and they need monitoring that's designed for the modern web. Traditional monitoring services just don't have the granularity. They just don't have the visibility required to show companies how their network is seen by the world.
So, like you said, it's a very complex network. So how did that factor into how you're planning to roll out the products, and in sort of, I guess, the order you're going to have to do things? What is that strategy there?
Well, the first of the products, the easiest one, is going to be a Chrome extension that goes across your laptop type devices and so on. That's more of a proof of concept and an MVP to showcase what it can actually do and where it goes into play. Mobile devices is actually the biggest focus, and that's right now. A large portion of this world doesn't actually use a laptop or a desktop to access the internet. It's the reason companies like Amazon are offering a quote free internet service to half of India, and why Facebook actually tried to offer up free internet across all of India through their mobile devices. So mobile will be the next primary. Laptops, desktops, and so on. That's important, but it's nowhere near as big. And then IoT devices are also in play. So in order to build the size of the network, it's got to utilize mobile users, and that's our focus.
Do you guys worry about companies like Apple and software like Android, by companies like Google that have seemed to be pushing back a lot against certain ICOs and crypto companies and banning certain Chrome extensions, for example? Do you ever worry about them trying to push crypto out within mobile, or do you worry about getting approved for the App Store in certain places?
I don't think it's going to be a problem. Here's the reason. Ultimately, we are doing what they want. We are granting them what they want. It grants a different type of visibility. Ultimately, if they really get upset with this or something, there's only three options in a business of this nature. We get bought out by somebody so they can use it. We get bought out by somebody so they can make it not workable for anybody.
Yeah.
Or they let us actually do what we're doing and they enter into partnerships with us.
Yeah.
It does not benefit them in any way, shape, or form to try to knock us offline, because the simple fact is they want this information too. They want to know. Marshall used the reference of the Airbnb. I like to use the reference of the Waze app instead. We are telling companies how their traffic is being routed. We're telling them what the lag time is. If you recognize that if it takes more than 5 seconds for a website to load, the average user, 50% of them will quit the website and will never come back. So companies want to know this information. They want to understand it. And they don't, we're in an age of Big Brother is watching me on everything. Oh my God, if Facebook knew this information and so on. They can't let that happen because they can't offer this up because everybody Facebook is using it against us. Truth is, they can let somebody like us put it together, get that information out there because it's beneficial. And the other side of it is if you leave out the monetary side of this and you do this as the good of the world type of approach, right? You will be able to see all of the various different routes, manipulations, reroutes by the government, by those trying to take advantage of the lack of net neutrality, by various different hacking groups that are trying to eliminate problems. All of this will give them insight into how those manipulations are taking place. And it's ultimately going to benefit the consumer or the end user, making the internet a lot faster, making it a lot less expensive to operate. Just the routing traffic alone, the optimization of routing traffic alone is going to save companies billions. It's worth it in the long run.
So I want to definitely touch upon net neutrality, which you just mentioned. But first, I wanted to ask, so say I'm, a mid-sized tech company and I wanted to start using Path to monitor some of my traffic. How would my experience differ from going and contracting FireEye or some other security company?
Well, because FireEye and many of the other security companies, which I'm good friends with most of those people, that's the traffic coming into your system. All right. Our focus here is on the traffic in the web as a whole and how your stuff gets out to everybody else.
I see.
Now, there is a piece to it. Say your DNS is rerouted by somebody along the way, and you're looking at traffic going, why did it take that path before it got to us? If you've got some kind of man-in-the-middle attack in the transition back and forth, you'd see it routed through an odds and go, oh, that's kind of odd. A FireEye, a Carbon Black, any of those other players out there, they're going to see a piece of that as well, but it's not going to be in a position where they understand how the traffic totally got there. If it's sitting outside of their firewalls, it's sitting outside of their DMZ, they're not looking at it. It's just not there for them. So that's where that comes into play. We're talking about you are a mid-sized company, and you want to know what route did it take. You've got a consumer in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, right? And you want to know how fast did they get to the website? Did they what was the route that was taken? Was anything weird occurring along the way? So we have a user there. They hit your websites. They pull down your information. It feeds back to us. We slap it up on a nice dashboard for you that actually sits on a blockchain, so you can track it month after month, day after day, hour after hour, and know that it's not been messed up. And you can say, well, there's an anomaly. Why did it take, 4.5 seconds on Friday and it took 1.5 seconds on Tuesday? What happened with the traffic route? What's going on there? Why was my client being sent that way? And if you're bouncing through Akamai or some other service, because all of that stuff you're paying for. If you're being bounced through various different sites or you're being slowed down, it's from there. So we're not competing with a FireEye. We're not competing with a Carbon Black. That's a perimeter around your network at your office itself. This is talking about once it gets into the web itself, it's talking about that extension and where it is out there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted Will on. He's our most technical guy, so I was hoping he understands this stuff a little better. So I'm trying to do what I can.
Just think of it this way. All right, you run a hotel. All right, and you want people to go from your local airport to your hotel, and they get on Waze or Google Maps or whatever it may be, and you want them to get there in the fastest route possible. Okay, but you have no idea how somebody's making that happen, how they're getting around there. By the time they get there, if it's a 20-minute drive versus an hour drive, right, your customers are going to be a lot more happy in the 20 minutes rather than if they took the hour to get to you, right? So that's what we're trying to make happen for you. We're trying to make sure you can see how quickly somebody can get from point A to point B, and you can tailor that information back and forth, and dig it all through in terms of how you want to address that. It makes your customers happy. It makes you happy. You get a lot more business a lot quicker.
I see. Okay. So is that, I don't know if I'm asking the right question, but does that sort of have to deal with proxies and redirects and making sure you're taking the most efficient route to whatever, Google server cache you're going to? Or
Absolutely. But it also shows you that you're saying the right things. But I'll give you an example. There's the Daily Mail, which is a website or a newspaper out of the UK.
Yeah.
Right. You go there, and your information that goes there, you as a consumer goes to that website. Your information goes there. 200 separate hops occur in terms of your information being resold out to somebody else.
Wow.
Right. Well, you hit it, and it's being shared everywhere else all the way through. Those separate hops may be paying you money, but you're seeing it route through that. That's slowing down the consumer experience, right? If you're a bad guy and I want to target this particular website, your particular group, I'm going to try to reroute traffic away from you. I'm going to hide traffic from you. I'm going to make them go in a different way just so they can't come to you. And I'll give you, there's a guy by the name of Jay Echefani from the mid 2000s. He is the only person to make it on the FBI's most wanted list as a cyber criminal, because he was doing a quote DDoS for hire protection, a distributed denial of service protection racket, where he was also launching attacks against everybody and then getting them to pay protection money, racket money, so that the websites would come back up. It was his own network that was launching the attacks. It was his own network that he was shutting down, but he was getting paid money hand over fist. All right. We'd be able to tell you what was happening along that. We'd be able to tell you when those things are occurring.
Yeah, I remember back in the sort of darknet days, all the markets would just DDoS each other over and over again. It was like corporate espionage to a point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole thing. Can I shut them down? And it touches on what you just said about net neutrality. When net neutrality actually ends, well, it kind of did I guess it does on June 11th, but the legal questions are still out there. But point is, when net neutrality ends, all the ISPs are supposed to tell companies whether or not they're throttling them back, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a customer of Netflix and you're on, Charter Communications is your IP address or whatever, and Charter wants to throttle it back, and they're monitoring where the inquiries are coming from, Netflix is gonna show up like it's coming from Netflix. So they're gonna make sure all the Netflix inquiries look clean. But if you or I sitting at our home and all of a sudden our Netflix is dithering out and we can't get it working, we're screaming and yelling at Netflix, and they're saying, "Oh no, the system's working perfectly." This goes back to that last 1 mile, the stuff that we would be able to show you, and then we can send that over to Netflix and they can look at it. And there's no way a company can block it all because they don't know which of the users are path miners. We call them operators, but that are operating our actual application on their various different systems.
Yeah, I mean, just the other day I was trying to get on Amazon and it was telling me I didn't have enough bandwidth left to use Amazon Video.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's related to net neutrality, but I feel like the politics around net neutrality were very sketchy to someone who's really paying attention to how the decision was made. But no one seemed to do a good job of articulating why it was good or why it was bad. And it just sort of went on through. So do you have a good explanation for people who really don't understand what it is, why it is, what it is, and what your opinion of it would be?
Look, ultimately the question becomes, is the internet a utility? Okay, so you all have water to your house. You pay a set fee, you get water, and you get to utilize a certain amount each month, right? For a set fee. If you use more than that, you pay more. In the internet, you pay for the internet, right? But you were not actually paying for additional bandwidth beyond a certain point. First off, it started with you get 5 gigs a month, and then it went to unlimited and so on. The problem is utilizing streaming services jams up those pipes more than, say, just visiting Amazon to make a purchase. Because it's constant, it's nonstop. Think of a hose constantly feeding it. So the real issue here was not the technology behind it. The real issue here was about the economics. How could the ISPs make more money now that companies had moved away from the concept of little bursts of information to a constant flow of information? And that's what net neutrality, I mean, under net neutrality, it was supposed to treat all traffic the same, but if it's, burst versus a constant flow, that really jams up the pipes as a whole. And that's why businesses want net neutrality to end so they can charge more, but why everybody else wants net neutrality to stay in place, because we don't want to have to pay additional to get what we've been getting for at a set price for the last 10, 15 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. Yeah, I think people have had a hard time understanding what it is, and they seem to be pushing some pretty aggressive advertising campaigns to convince people otherwise too. So that's how they had some money to be made there.
Well, it's the language. If you think about it, like net neutrality sounds like a bad thing. Like, ooh, we're being neutral on, it's like the appeasement policies of World War II. We're letting them do this. When in fact, what net neutrality, what people don't realize is net neutrality was a good thing. And there's been no concerted effort, because there's really no group that's no true business group that's in favor of it, other than those that are coming under fire for stealing all our privacy. Facebook and Apple and various different groups. They can't say, ooh, let us have free flow, because that means, we're going to have free flow of your information. So it's a catch-22. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's good for people to start to understand, something to start paying attention to.
Yeah, definitely. And where Path comes into that is, we want to be the third party that is kind of neutral, and it kind of acts as the arbitrator. Part of what we do, part of the visibility and analytics that we get into how routing is taking place on the internet, we can see from an outside perspective just how these policies are impacting consumers.
Okay. Yeah, no, that certainly makes sense. So I was going to ask as well, as we're going through some of these political issues, what you guys think about all of the talk about, elections being hacked, and there's been a real emphasis on cybersecurity, especially in the media and especially within current events. What do you think about some of those more specific cases, and are there things that
let me address this a slightly different way?
Sure.
Okay. When we talk about an election being hacked, for guys like Marshall and I, we think of hacking as some kind of technical skill that broke into a system and manipulated it.
Yeah, they use it very.
That did not occur. No technical system was manipulated. No votes were changed. There's no indication whatsoever. Don't get me wrong; they wanted to, and there was absolutely what happened here was the use of mass media in the form of social media to manipulate people, to get us to believe certain things or to address things in a certain way. And ultimately, if you think about it from a targeting perspective, and I'm leaving out politics here, I just want you to think about demographics wise.
Yeah.
From a politics perspective, you could try to piss off a bunch of, angry old white guys, primarily that make up most of the Republican side of the world, right? Or that's how the world sees it, whether it's true or not, that's how the world sees it. Or you could target a whole bunch of young up-and-comers who play on social media all day long and demand their security and their privacy nonstop, and that makes up a large portion of your socially active Democratic Party, right? So if you're a country and you just want to mess with another country and make everybody question everything that's happened in their government, everything that's doing it, and get them so focused inwardly and get them so focused on dealing with their internal world so they can't look at the rest of the world, right? Who do you target in that? The guys who are like, well, I don't really understand what this stuff is, but blah, blah, blah. Or you target the people who are like, oh, no, this is my world. This is where I live. And how dare you mess with my, how dare you try to manipulate me? That's where the target was. And let's be honest, you couldn't pick a better bad guy in this mix because most of your, quote, angry old white guys, they grew up in an age where Russia was bad. So anything coming out of Russia was a bad thing. So to go back to your original question, though, to answer it directly, the Russians did nothing different than what we, the Brits, the French, everybody has done in a propaganda war. They just used it more effectively. And we get pissed off because we got manipulated. And we're angry because we got manipulated. But the simple fact is we did.
Yeah. And we spend a whole lot more money influencing their elections than they did on ours.
But it works both ways. They were just better at it. And let's be honest, this has been happening for months and years and decades. We just didn't realize it, and it's not just on a political nature. It's been happening on a advertising nature for quite a bit of time too. But you're seeing the same thing in terms of the crypto world. Nobody wants cryptocurrency because the people that normally control it can't control it anymore. Nobody wants this kind of insight into the way the world works in terms of how traffic routes through because they can't control it anymore. You got disruptive technology, young upstarts coming into it, like Marshal here, that break the norm, and that's but that's what we need.
And that's a perfect segue into crypto and security. So, how do you feel that crypto can become secure enough to the point where people are going to be comfortable putting significant portions of their money into it? And how do you see that taking place? And do you see any companies that are moving in that direction that you would feel comfortable putting your money?
Well, one of the old competing philosophies is that with many eyes, all bugs are shallow, and that has resonated throughout history in computing. I mean, it's the open source philosophy that if your code is public, then if everyone can look at it, they can audit it, and they can help you improve your code by finding bugs. And that's really been embraced by the crypto community. Almost every project out there that I've seen so far has been open source. The project that we've built on top of the Ethereum network has been around. It's been thoroughly audited by just about everybody, and it's proven itself. It's been reliable, and that's why we picked the Ethereum network to build our token off of.
And so, when it comes to crypto security, where do you think the biggest points of I guess the weakest points are just in the general ecosystem of crypto? Where are the pressure points? Where are people trying to attack?
Honestly, it's not from a technical perspective. It's the logic. It's the logic behind a lot of the code. A lot of the flaws that we see that get pushed out in various smart contracts tend to be logic problems. It's not that there's a code or
human error.
Yeah, there's not a buffer overflow or some kind of traditional vulnerability. It's a logic problem. It's somebody didn't properly translate a concept into their smart contract.
So it's a lot of growing pains and people just trying to, quickly get stuff out. You think it's more just a lack of attention being paid to certain things? Exactly.
It's a lot of people are entering this era with smart contracts, and people are getting acclimated to solidity and picking up these new languages. I think sometimes developers. And also some of these concepts are not exactly easy. A lot of these concepts around crypto have to do with financial paradigms and various things. And translating some of that stuff into code is not always the easiest task. And so we've seen in other projects, we've seen a lot of different logic errors crop up, especially over the last 5 to 6 months.
And so one thing that's also been talked about, I'm not sure if you guys have some specific thoughts on this, but we're going to be talking to some guys on Wednesday developing a quantum resistant ledger. So I was wondering if you guys have any thoughts on quantum computing and how that may affect internet security.
Well, the idea here is, everybody wants to know how do you break a blockchain or the ledger as a whole. And the discussion, can you feed it bad information? Can you screw with the consensus logarithm so that or algorithm so that it messes up that way? And the answer is yes, you could. But ultimately, if you think of the blockchain as a basic accounting principle, that is, you did your checkbook, which most people don't do anymore, but my age, you wrote your checkbook in pen, and then you sent it out to everybody the second after the ink dried, so it can never be erased, right? So the big thing is, how do we get erasable ink? And that's where this quantum stuff is coming into play, and so on. Ultimately, it's a proof of concept. Could somebody do it? But I think it's kind of a waste, to be honest with you, because one, blockchain hasn't been adopted enough across the board. They're just trying to poke holes in it. And secondly, if blockchain is adopted enough, the real important stuff that it's going to be utilized to keep track of is not going to be wholly public. These are going to be private, internal corporate blockchains. It's going to be internal type stuff. Now, stuff like, did I buy something at 7-Eleven and, manipulations of my credit account and things of that nature. Those might be pieces that are crackable in the future. But if you back up one piece of information, one public piece of information with a couple of private pieces of information on chains that are not accessible to the public as a whole, it doesn't matter if you can break it with quantum computing, because you got to get access to it. So we go into that whole cycle all over again. So I'd love to see what they come up with, but more importantly, I'd love to see which company is going to say, here, break into our private blockchain with your quantum computing, because nobody's going to do it.
Interesting. Okay. So what are some of, I guess, the crypto companies that you guys maybe have been paying attention to that you think also have, exciting technology? Are there other companies that you guys are paying close attention to or investing with or working with?
Yeah, so one of the companies that has really stood out to me, at least, was Nodal, NODL, and this was founded by the same gentleman that was behind the application FireChat, if you're familiar with it. So it was so he had that history of working with decentralized applications of peer-to-peer mesh networks, and he took it and he got adoption, and with a very small amount of money, he was able to get himself on over 3 million devices, 3 million phones across the world to make up his new network for his token. So, he did that with under $500,000. So it's really fascinating, some of the tech and some of the people that have moved into this space. A lot of them are established and have done things in other fields that were pretty noteworthy. And it's cool to see how that translates to blockchain applications.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So when it comes to, you talked about how they could use, a fairly small amount of money and get a really massive reach. How have you guys approached sort of the fundraising decision-making process? Because we have such a range of options, from ICOs to airdrops to VCs. How are you making some of those decisions as a means of best funding the company?
Well, what's interesting about our funding is we do not need a boatload of money to build what we're building. Our biggest concern right now is to make sure that we can support any attacks against it. And what I mean by that is that we talked about groups like Google and Facebook and Apple or whatever wanting this type of stuff to be done. There will be groups out there who don't want this visibility. Most ISPs, if we are the independent monitor telling somebody whether or not they're violating net neutrality changes, or we are identifying hacking groups that are rerouting your traffic to various different locations, or showcasing that somebody did not optimize your network properly. That puts a target on our back. Sometimes legal, sometimes cyber attack based. And that's where our extra income is coming into play. That's where we're focused on, to build that and address those pieces. So, there are groups out there that have raised $15 to $20 million that have no MVP in play.
Yeah, plenty of those.
You've got groups like us who we've raised about $7 million, of which we've got our MVP that'll be coming out next month, but our original proof of concept was out. And we have to change that. We have to address this in such a way that we are looking at this as a business that's going to last. We had a recent potential Path purchaser. We can't call them investors because you're buying this token, but a Path purchaser who commented that he was impressed at the idea that we are building this to run the company. We're building it. We've got governance, we've got security, we've got legal, we've got everything from the beginning. You got a lot of companies out there that are just, oh, we got this great idea and we want to raise money for it, but they put no back end governance to it. And one of the cool things here with regards to Marshal, one of the founders, is that's the first thing they thought about is, how do we make sure this company lasts for the long term? How do we pay for this company in the long term? How do we make it a real business? And you got a lot of them other ones are out there. I mean, think about it. Every little pot group that's trying to launch their thing, they don't plan on being in business much more than 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
They're hoping, ooh, we'll create this and we'll run away and we all get to be crypto millionaires.
Yeah.
That's not our approach. We have a statement is that we can't fail. It doesn't mean that we're that good. It means simply that that the internet environment needs what we are doing. And if we fail, we're screwing so many people and so many groups out of that. So we can't fail is not a motto of how good we are. It's a motto of what we're trying to do for the world as a whole.
Yeah, I like that, especially now that Google has removed "Don't be evil" from their motto. To be someone, right?
Yeah. So I mean, to go back to what you originally asked, and that is, how do we come up with the money set that we're looking to raise? It was with the idea of a long-term business rather than a short-term business. And it was in the idea of reasonable salaries for the members and the staff and so on. I mean, we've all agreed to 18-month holdout periods before we can sell anything, any piece of what we own. That's 6 months longer than the legal requirement by anybody. We're in for the long term. And that's, if you're thinking of getting into this space and you're trying to figure out a company and maybe you don't like what we're doing, I would recommend from looking at the company as you would a regular investor if you were buying stock. Is it going to last? Is it going to be around for a long time? Does it actually offer a service that's going to exist, that's going to be required a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, depending on your investment strategy?
And so, as far as, I think that answered most of my questions. I think that's it makes a lot of sense to do it that way, because I've seen so many companies like Hood, for example. They raised $80 million and then their product is absolutely useless in a month. Or, you have a lot of these ICO scams, and they've made it increasingly difficult to do so in the US. So if you guys had any problems, I think you guys are also in LA. We're located in LA.
Oh yeah, we're right in Santa Monica right now.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'm sort of Pasadena area.
Okay.
But I was wondering if you guys have had any sort of regulatory issues being in the US, and if you've ever considered somewhere else as a result.
Well, one of the reasons Marshall, when I came on, Marshall and his other partner had already started this company well before I had come on. And one of my discussion pieces with him was, look, if we're going to do this, we're doing it right. We're doing it legally. We're doing it all the way through. And that was the absolute guarantee. So we did not set up international. Now, we have employees that work for us international, but we did not set up an international company. We are based here. As for have we had regulatory issues? We haven't had regulatory issues, but we have had issues related to the ability to, not issues. We have had a couple of stumbling blocks related to converting the Ether investment into USD. And the simple reason for that is because the groups that the actual groups that can do the conversions, your various exchanges and so on, either they have such low thresholds in terms of what you can take out on a daily basis, or secondly, their process for creating, because they're a new industry too, their process for creating a corporate account with all the regulatory requirements in place simply isn't mature enough. It doesn't exist. Okay. And then all of a sudden at one point in time, and they're also looking to make money. So if you go to take, say, $1 million out in Ether, you're killing them because they got to find somebody who's going to buy that Ether back at least that price or higher. And when the market fluctuates back and forth, so that's probably been the biggest piece of it. And I would advise anybody who's thinking of going into the into the ICO or STO space is work that out in advance. Work out that you've got a corporate account. Make sure that the exchange that you are utilizing as your business partner, that they understand what you do for business. If that means agreeing to paying a higher cash out rate or a higher percentage, do it. Because the point here is that you need to be able to convert over to a fiat, to USD or British sterling or whatever. Because if you're stupid enough to be paying your employees in Ether and it fluctuates like it did in the last month, $100 per Ether, you're losing money hand over fist. And if I'm an outside investor looking at a company and they say, oh yeah, and we pay our investors in Ether and we do this, or we pay our employees in Ether and we do all that, that's baloney, because you're losing money and you're not a real company. You're not a long-term company.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we've had problems with. We have an exchange built that we've just been sitting on. We were trying to put up, and some of our co-founders got cited by the SEC and fined. And so, the exchange ecosystem is sort of a nightmare right now. And I certainly understand how getting all of that money converted back. And I think that's a lot of the downward pressure on Ether right now is just so many people trying to sell their ICO proceeds. And once some of that cools down, I think prices will probably shoot back up.
Well, it'll always fluctuate, but believe it or not, this is no different than the foreign exchange market. That fluctuates. Now we're talking about fluctuating on pennies and dimes and nickels type of approach, but it fluctuates daily. And if there was a methodology to work it out there's a methodology to work it out now. And the smart exchanges, in my take, would set a price on a daily limit and say, look, it'll be whatever the price is at 4:00 in the afternoon Eastern time on such and such a date, and any trades that will be made at that price level. And then the next day it resets, and that will minimize the trade. It will maximize the ability for people to make profit if they decide to take it out in smaller chunks instead of being stupid and saying, I'm going to take out $2 million all at once.
Yeah.
So, I'm probably pissing off a lot of your listeners with regards to this by calling them stupid. But if they think this thing through, and they think long term and turn this into a real business instead of a get rich quick scheme, they would realize that these are the methodologies with which banks have been doing it for years. I mean, for decades. So we need to start thinking that way a little bit. Not everything old is bad. We just need to find a way to work with it, says the old guy in the room.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I mean, I started off trading Forex, so I always thought it was interesting how crypto kind of took a life of its own apart from the Forex markets. And it still seems like everyone's trying to rectify where it fits in, whether it's, it's its own thing, if it should be included in finance and equities or Forex, and everyone's kind of all over the place. But those are really the questions I have set up for you guys. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on beforehand? I definitely want to give you guys a chance to talk about where people can find more information and more resources to learn a little bit more. So anything you guys want to refer them to, or anything you guys want to touch on to close it up, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, really, I feel that this call has been really good. I think we've really hit on a lot of the high points of the project. I mean, people are always welcome to check out our white paper, to join our Telegram, and to participate on the community. All that is out there on our website, Path.network. Once again, that's Path.network with network spelled out. Yeah, everyone's more than happy to join in. So we've really worked hard to have a platform that's competitive, that's low cost relative to others in this industry, in this space, in the network monitoring field. We feel that at the same time that we're increasing resolution and increasing the quality of the monitoring that we offer, at the same time we're also lowering the cost and providing a unique paradigm to where with this using commodity devices, we're expanding the visibility that companies have into the internet. So love the call. Thanks for joining us and bringing us onto the podcast. And I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for coming. And I think you guys have done an excellent job of articulating some of these really complicated concepts by using some really great analogies that help people visualize some of this stuff, because when you see it on a page, it seems incredibly confusing. But when you think about it more as a system of processes, I think it makes a lot more sense to people. And I think you guys have done a great job of that. And we're going to make sure we put all the links to your sites and social media and whatever else in the description. So we'll get those from you at the end. And I want to thank everyone for listening. We'll be talking about quantum resistant ledgers on Wednesday. So thanks for coming out, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.